Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for being here, and thanks for having me here today as well. As Gretchen said, I am the Rotary Public Image Coordinator for Zones 25B and 29, and I don't expect you as presidents-elect to know what the heck that means. So let me take 30 seconds to do that. So in Rotary, obviously, we have all these clubs, 40,000 Rotary clubs thereabouts around the world, and in order to support all of you, we have districts that are there to support the clubs. And you see on a lot of our backgrounds, we have the map of the districts that are a part of NCPETS. And in order to support those districts, which there are between 530 and 540 of them around the world, there are zones which provide resources to district leaders and things like that. So that's my role, is to support our zones as the public image coordinator, just like we have a membership coordinator and a Rotary
Please,
Foundation
if you don't
coordinator,
mind coming here. Yeah,
to
no,
to to basically make sure that we can support district leadership, who then in turn can support you. So that's what we're talking about today, and really, in a nutshell, it's about public image and Rotary, communicating your story and increasing your club's perception. We'll get to that keyword perception in a minute here. So that's a little bit of what we're doing. But I want to start, because this is about storytelling. I want to start by telling a story. In January of 2019, my wife and I went to India to participate in a polio immunization trip. It has been something I wanted to do for a long time, especially, I'm 46 now. So I grew up not having to care about polio, not having to know what it was, certainly didn't. But because of my Rotary involvement, polio eradication became more important to me. And I feel, in order to encourage people to do more, I felt it was good for me to go and actually be a part of experiencing an immunization trip on the ground, to be able to come back and tell that story better. Because we all have Rotary stories, but that was one I really wanted to tell. So we went in January, and we were in Agra by the Taj Mahal. And it was a larger group of us, but on the day of the polio immunization event, we gathered at a hospital, and then in groups of four, we went to different areas around Agra. And one of the four of us hopped in a little car along with a driver and a nurse, and headed out to some neighborhood that I could only imagine was on the outskirts of Agra, because of the road that we took to get there. And by road, I mean a semi under construction, semi, it looked like it may have just, they stopped building it at some point. All I knew is it felt like we were in a spy movie, and I was waiting for the bad guys to come out and jump us at some point, because there was nothing around. And at one point, the road just ended. But we did get to our location, into this neighborhood, and we were able to, they kind of led us through kind of some back alleyways so we could get to the neighborhood leader's house. And we set up shop in his front yard, or in the front room of his house, and all the kids were already waiting for us, lined up around the block. And that's where we spent the next little while. As the first kid came in, one of the guys in our group was an older gentleman, a veteran Rotarian from Australia, and he had been a Rotarian the longest, so we let him go first. And when he administered the couple drops of the polio vaccine to that first kid, I had to step away. The tears came, and the waterfall started, because it was just such an overwhelming moment for me. I mean, here I was, actually there on the ground, seeing how this all came about, and being a part of helping immunize kids against polio. When it was my turn, I was able to wipe the tears away and focus, because we were doing a maintenance campaign. So it was the oral polio vaccine. In the more high risk areas, they do an injectable shot, for reasons we'll talk about some other time. But we were doing a maintenance campaign. So every person, you'd have the vial, you'd give 2 drops, and then the next person, you'd give 2 drops out of the same vial. So you didn't want to allow the vial to touch the sides of these kids' mouths. Well, of course, like the first 5 kids that I had were all between the ages of 6 and 9 months old. So you can imagine their mother holding them, the nurse trying to hold their head in the right spot, and me trying to hit this target that was no more than a quarter size. I think I got one kid in the eye. I mean, it was that bad, trying to focus on this all. But we were able to do the job. And that day, we probably, the four of us, immunized between 125 and 150 kids, and there were a number of other groups. So we estimated that we probably immunized between 3 and 4,000 kids that day. And later on that day, as I thought about it, I got to thinking about, at the time, my 1 year old and 3 year old at home, that we didn't have to worry about polio here because our modern our modern medical system, it's part of the regular immunizations, that they're good. But in the developing world where they don't have that, we were helping change those kids' lives by preventing them from getting polio. And not only that, but we were helping change their mothers' lives, their fathers' lives, their grandparents' lives, because now they didn't have to worry about their kids getting polio either. And to be there in that moment and know that we were being a part of this big worldwide campaign to eradicate polio, it really stuck with me. And as much as we were changing their lives, it changed my life as well because of the impact that we were having and the impact it had on me. Now I'm going to pause there for a second, and great story and all, but if we think about Rotary, and if we think about Rotary as a business, what's our product? Well, our product is our service. It's the impact we're making on people throughout our communities and around the world. How do we maximize that service? Well, like any business, it's labor and it's money. That's why membership of the Rotary Foundation are so important. The more members we have doing service, and the more engaged members we have, and the volunteers alongside them that are willing to do more, then we're able to have a greater impact. So that's why we need to grow as an organization. Same thing on the Rotary Foundation end of things. The more money we have as an organization to do grants and other projects, the more impact we're going to be able to make. Okay, Kyle, you're talking about membership in the foundation here. This is a public image session. Where does that come into play? Well, public image, we're the storytellers. That's the part in all of us in Rotary that needs to be there in order to create an emotional connection with people so that they're willing to participate with us, so that our members and other people in our communities that want to walk alongside us are willing to give their time, energy, talents, and money. Think about any organization you're a part of. It's because you want to be there. We don't join organizations we don't like. And the only organization that we give money to that we don't like is the IRS. We don't do that. It's because we need to have an emotional engagement in order to want to participate with something. And that's where public image comes into play. We are able to work with everybody in Rotary, and it should be everybody's job to create those emotional engagements, both within our members and within our the public around us, so they want to be a part of who we are and what we do. Think back to that story real quick. Could you picture yourself on the ground with me? And I'm just going to assume, because I can only see like four people, that I'm going to assume there's a couple heads nodding. I hope so. When I tell this in person, people do. But could you picture yourself there? Did that story make you a little bit more proud to be a Rotarian? Are you a little bit more apt to say, hey, maybe I should go on a service trip somewhere? And finally, if we passed a virtual hat around the room, I guess I don't know how we do that, but would you be more willing to give $1 or two towards polio eradication? That's what storytelling does. That's the impact that we're having. And without telling those stories and creating those emotional engagements in people, we aren't going to maximize the number of people that we have working with us or the amount of money that we have to go towards what we can do. And that's really when it comes down to it. If you think about what public image is, and you can think about it in a number of different ways, but really, we could say, well, public image is marketing or advertising or social media or newspaper articles or public relations. It's all those, and it's so much more, because really the definition of public image is the perceptions others have of us, the perceptions we have of ourselves, and the perceptions that we want people to have. And I think those are all important because you, as a president-elect, you get to be in charge of your club for better or worse next year. And you get to have a lead role in not creating those things, but helping your club enhance the perception the public has of you and enhance the perception we have of ourselves. That's not only like me personally, how do I feel about being a Rotarian, but more collectively, how our club, how our members feel about being a Rotarian. And than the perception we want to have because we have the ability to do something about it. So that's what public image really is in a nutshell. It's the storytelling, it's creating that emotional engagement, and it's creating perceptions that help strengthen who we are and what we do so people want to give their time, energy, talent, and money. Now I think it's time to do the breakouts. I guess I'd like to hear a little bit for 5 minutes or so from some of the uh, discussion leaders um, on what were some of the good thoughts in their club because these things are key in terms of why. And I was in one of the breakout rooms and somebody said, if you just keep doing things the same way all the time, you're going to get the same results, which we've heard that. And it's like, yeah, we can't just do things accidentally, and there has to be some purpose to them. And that's why asking why the perception others have of us and we have of ourselves is important. That's so we start thinking about what we're doing. Why are we doing what we're doing, and start making certain decisions based on that. And I'd like to do a little bit of just hearing, especially on maybe what some of the groups had as ideas on how, let's start with what you as club president can do to enhance the perception the community has of you. And we are going to start, I'm just going to pick a random number. Um, well, since my daughter is 6 and every time her favorite number is her age, so we'll go 6. Who's group number 6?
Number 6 is Mike Lovett, representing the awesome group number 6 from around the country. Um, from Crookston on the north, west to Idaho, to Texas, Florida, and so on. I think one of the themes that was really powerful is that when you're president of your Rotary Club, you exemplify and represent the values of Rotary to your club members and outside your club. Your club isn't just about the stuff that you have done or the activities that you do, but it's the whole purpose of Rotary. And there were really thoughtful conversations about how you do that. In a sense, this is a fresh start for each of our new presidents to think about who they are in the community and who they are in the club. How do I act and how do I demonstrate Rotary to everyone?
Michael, that's a really good point, and it reminds me of way back when I was coaching middle school basketball, and there was a 8 o'clock morning game that I was not wanting to be there, and so my energy was very low. Well, guess what happened? The team's energy was very low. If I'm, as the coach, as the leader, have a lot of energy, the kids are going to have more energy at that as well. So that's a very important thing to make sure of at your club meetings, at other events. You got to bring the energy so other people want to. Let's see. How about number 5? What's group number 5 have to say?
I'll tell you what we have to say.
Dang it. As I said it, I went, oh, that's Becker's group.
Well, once I woke them up from your talk, we had a really nice discussion and answered some of the questions. But the thing that glared out for the smaller clubs is, first of all, is how to get their community to start asking about Rotary. It's not so much whether they know it, is whether they can even get the opportunity to talk about it. And they're trying to figure out a way, as coming in as presidents, how to get their community to start asking about Rotary and getting more visible. And also they started realizing that their social media has become the vehicle for recognition in communities as far as understanding what's going on, telling the stories like you did. And they are all in agreement pretty much that they need to have somebody or partner with somebody such as a youth group to aid them in getting the word out so that it's easier for everybody to understand what Rotary really means.
Thanks. Let's go to what can some of the clubs or the presidents do to enhance the perception of their members? And we'll go with number 2, going to my old baseball number.
Okay. So I guess what we talked about with regard to perception of the members, we did talk a little bit about knowing what your members are thinking. And so we talked about some of the clubs are doing surveys, periodic surveys of their members to understand how they what they see in value, what do they value, and the most important question being, would you recommend our club to your best friend? And so I think keeping a pulse on what they're thinking is hard. But once you get into a routine, it's possible to create a track record of trends of what are they getting? Are we getting? Do we need to improve in a certain area, et cetera? What do they value? So you got to ask them, I think, is the answer to the question. Got to ask them, how do they feel?
Russ, I think you and I've had this conversation at one point in time. Here is, if you want to totally change your club and then build up from there as a whole, it's 3 easy things. Ask your members what they want, listen to them, and then do it. And if you do that, you're going to have the best year ever. Let's go to group number 8. We'll go to 8.
So that would be our group, and I'll say that our conversation around what the president could do to change the perception largely focused in the need for members to step up to the plate, if you will. And one of the participants shared that she's been doing the social media, the website, and so forth, and now she's not finding someone else to do that and feeling like, how am I going to handle that as a president? So that was a real challenge. The other thing we talked about was the diversity, male, female, male related, and a couple of the clubs in the group were very female heavy. So actually changing, or not, but encouraging more diversity in the club by doing things like member spotlights and things like that, so that people know who are the members of the club and how do they, relate or how are they relevant in the community and so forth. That was pretty much it for us. Oh, there was one other thing. The other thing was following Rotary International's roadmap. So if you follow their monthly theme, that's another way to potentially get the word out about Rotary in general. So.
Yep. It sure is. And to do that, you're educating your members on at least, hey, here's what Rotary does in this area, which should make your members a little bit more proud. Let's do one last one, and we'll go with number 10.
Oh, okay. What was the question again? I'm supposed to answer? No, I'm just kidding. No, our group enjoyed talking about different things. We shared different stories, making sure that the perception's there. And I believe one of the participants had talked about, it was Tadia, because she's down in Guatemala. She shared a good story about, because it was raised on the question of, what do you do when you have public come to your meeting and promoting that correctly? And she said that when she was at her meeting before she left the country, she made sure to welcome those public people to make sure that they were welcomed, but tell them about the club, so that way then it lasted with them and they would want to come back. So
sure, makes total sense. And I think one of the things, I mean, there's so many answers, and hopefully you all got some answers on what other clubs might be thinking or doing in order to impact those perceptions. One thing that is certainly an easy way to, I was in a couple of the rooms and I heard the common refrains of, by doing things a certain way, you're creating more people thinking about you in the future. And that's the case with any branding that happens. And, it's long said within Rotary that There are no Rotary police, but it sure as heck, and Kathy, Faye, and Liz can agree on this because they've been in my position as well. The Rotary Public Image Coordinator position sure seems like the Rotary Police sometimes when it comes to branding. So we're going to spend about 4 minutes on branding because that's all I want to spend. And it's just, we're not going to get into that. You got better things to think about right now, but keep these in mind as you go forward. Number one, this is the Rotary brand. You know, if you see things in your clubs or whatever that have just the wheel, that's not correct anymore. And you know, for years we've called this the new Rotary brand. Well, it's 11 or 12 years old now, so I think by the time it's almost a teenager, we can just call it the way. But you know, it has Rotary with the wheel, your club name above or below it. That's it. It's not creative or anything from there. Same way that McDonald's, if you go from Prior Lake to Waverly, Iowa to Bemidji, Minnesota to Guatemala, you're not going to see a different logo. You're going to see the same logo so people know it and are comfortable with it. There are a couple varieties of the logo that you can use, you know, in terms of if you have a darker background, if it's white, you know, either white with the gold or all white, or there's a black option as well. You know, above, below, a mix of things. That's the way your club's logo should look. So if you go to your anything of your web presence, your website, your social media, anything, if you're putting signs up in your meetings or when you're promoting things, this should be the branding that you have. Here are some examples of not the right branding. You see a lot of these just use the wheel, the old multicolored wheel. That's not accurate anymore. Please don't use that. That basically what it tells people is that at least know is we haven't changed in a long time. You know, you see this Rotary with the wheel next to it. Well, it's not the right font and it's not the right wheel. Similarly, up here, this West Bay Rotary Yard Sale Fundraiser, again, not the right font. It's a multicolored or backgrounded wheel. I have to tell you that people spent more time doing that, creating that logo on their own than it would to just go on the brand center and create your club's logo. So it's much easier to do it right as well. The other one here, this lower right hand corner, don't put the wheel or a logo inside of another logo. Similarly to no company in their right mind would do that. We shouldn't be doing that either. So please don't do that. So that's about it. And I will tell you that these slides actually make a difference. One of my team members on the public image team, they're down. So we serve Texas as well as the Upper Midwest. And I was down there last week and I was in a room showing this slide that the Rotary Club of Park Cities in Dallas was in. And their president-elect said, we changed that. Like 5 years ago, we changed it to make sure it was right. And I said, well, this is an old slide, but the examples are there. But peer pressure sometimes works, I guess. So those are the branding side of things. If you have any questions on that, the best thing I can tell you is that there are people that can help at the district level or above that. So don't feel like you're having to do it on your own, making sure that you at least pay attention and do it correctly, and we can help you there. There's my Rotary cop side of things. And as Liz said, the cheap option, how do you pronounce that, Liz? I've always wondered. Is it
Calibri?
That's what I thought. I figured it was going to be more fancy than I thought it was. So
Yeah, that's the default font. So that tells me didn't choose a font.
yeah. So there you go. So you shouldn't use Calibri, right?
Correct.
Correct. Yes.
Our fonts are.
Oh, there's a bunch of them. There's
Well,
free
there's
ones.
two.
There's
Two official.
Yes, I know. I just don't have it in front of me. There's Frutiger.
Yes.
And you can use Arial, mostly narrow, as a
Yeah.
free option as well.
Sentinel is our other font.
There's the other one. Yep. All right. We'll move on from the branding side of things. So at least now you're thinking about that. And what I like to do is kind of start wrapping things up here with 10 tips for a successful public image as a way to leave you some takeaways so that you can think about how to do things the right way. And Gretchen and the PETS leadership will send out, we have a document that we've put together with these on it as well. But I want to share some of these. And as I tell audiences when we're talking about these 10 tips, if you do 3 of them, you're going to have a great year. If you do 6 of them, you're going to have the best year your club has ever had. And if you do all 10, you're coming for my job. So don't be overwhelmed by these. But number 1 is sharing your why, telling those stories, making sure your club members understand the why and the impact. It's not only, from a project standpoint, we're doing this project. Okay, just don't focus on the what and how, but focus on why we're doing it. We're putting all this work in to raise money to help this many people have a better life. Create that impact. Share the impact part of things. We had in our club have a fundraiser, and we spent the year calculating how many lives we impacted last year. So we were able to say, hey, for all your efforts, that equated to 465,000 lives impacted last year. Members feel better about that. But it's also share your why. Why are you in Rotary? Why do you stay in Rotary? Tell that Rotary story. In one of the rooms, I talked about getting those recordings from all their members. They want to put those together so they can use them for promotion and they can use them for other purposes. But it's important to share your why as president because that's going to give you credibility. And then also your members will start thinking about what their why is. And you can encourage them to tell their why as well. Next, build a team, a public image team or anything else in it. As club president, there's only one way that you should be the public image chair of your club, and that's if you have one member in the club. Otherwise, find somebody in your club that can help run things public image wise and build a team around them. And I will tell you, don't just default to the local newspaper editor or somebody that works in PR or somebody that used to be on a TV station or whatever, because sometimes people don't want to do in their volunteer time what they do in their real life. Find the person that's committed to Rotary, understand the importance of creating that emotional engagement, and they're organized. They can learn. I'm not a public relations professional. I've learned how to do a lot of this stuff. I understand, though, how Rotary works together so that we can make sure that we're impacting the most people. That's the important part of things. Number 3, have a plan. Things don't happen by accident. And a goal without a plan is just a wish. So making sure that you have a plan for what do we want to achieve. If you don't have a social media presence, well, don't just say, okay, we're going to have a great presence on 7 different social media sites, because that's too big of a goal. It's not going to happen. What can we do bit by bit to start things off, get good at that, and then grow from there? It's as I mentioned to somebody last week, talking about their club. It's how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. You can't just eat the whole thing in one gulp. Similar, you have to make plans on how you can do things going forward. Accurate content. We talked about that, in terms of brand consistency, but also just accurate content. Making sure your website has the right branding on it, has the right date and time and location of where you meet, has up-to-date stories. If you're going to post stories, if I'm looking for a Rotary club to go to, if I'm out of town somewhere and I see that there's a club website and the last story they have is from 2021, how can I trust that the time and date and location of their meetings is accurate? I'm probably not going to go to that club. Making sure you have accurate content when you're talking about what you're doing is key. Ending polio, it's still our biggest outward priority. And think about what we've accomplished there. And I know people are getting younger and they haven't had to deal with polio here, But 1988, 350,000 cases in over 110 endemic countries in the world that year. Last year, 2 endemic cases and 2 endemic countries and 12 cases. And Rotary's on the leading edge of that. You should be really proud of that, and you should make sure your members understand that. And hold an event in your community so the public can know how big of a deal we really are. That's important. Relevant social media, making sure that it's attractive, that it's relevant, that it's telling the story you want to tell so you can increase that perception. Make sure your club is warm and welcoming. At meetings, at other events, how does it feel at the meeting for both new people coming in and current members? When you go to your club meeting next week, walk in and put yourself in as somebody walking in for the first time. How does the meeting feel? Conversely, also, for the next couple of meetings, pay attention. How fast are people leaving after the meeting? Because if they got somewhere else better to be, they're going to go there in a hurry. But if they had an engaging experience, if they had fun and they felt enriched, they're going to hang out. They're going to talk to other people because energy and emotion are contagious. And boredom's also contagious. So it's up to you to set that tone for your club and everything you do, that it's warm and welcoming and, dare I say, fun. Working together, making sure it's not just everybody in their own little silo, where membership's doing their thing and public image is doing their thing and service projects is doing their things. Encourage them to be working together so that we can have a synergistic effect. And also that it's not just one year after the other, but rather you're working with your president-elect and the president nominee behind that you're working together to set goals and targets that are for more than 1 year, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel every year. Wear the uniform. If it's a Rotary pin, if it's a Rotary shirt, wear it. And don't just wear it on the day that your club meets, because those people already know you're a Rotarian. Wear it on other days, because you never know when that person is going to come out and go, "What's that?" Or, "Hey, I've seen that. Tell me more." It's a conversation starter, and obviously make sure it's compliant. And finally, have fun. If we're not having fun, we're not going to do something. That's just how we are as people. I'm going to say it again just because it's that important. If we're not having fun, we're not going to do it. So what can you do to create a fun, warm, welcoming experience for your members so they want to stay, they want to come back, they want to tell other people, and thus the perception goes up? A couple of real quick things, and again, this will be on that handout we send, but in a second, if there's one slide you want to take a picture of, it'll be this one. I'll tell you when to do it. Some different resources you can use. Obviously, Rotary's Brand Center is a key one. You don't even have to log into your My Rotary account to get there, but that's where you can find all the right colors, all the right logos. You can build your own logo, the right fonts, all sorts of pre-packaged media that you can utilize. Is a great place to go. People of Action Photo Editor. A Rotarian in the North St. Paul Maplewood Oakdale Club here in Minnesota created this as another tool that the Brand Center has as well. But in order to put those nice together, whatever in the People of Action photos, takes about 30 seconds. You can take a picture and have it framed and on social media within 30 seconds. Our resource library at our zone website, which I just put that there, but we've tried over the last couple of years to create a resource library that you can go to as a one-stop shop. So it's just not so hard to find all these different things and lots of different tips and tricks, as well as some webinars we've done. About a year ago, I interviewed a Emmy and Peabody award-winning documentary filmmaker about how he goes about telling an effective story. It's a great listen. Those are kind of deeper dives into subjects that nobody wants to talk about when there's 140 people on a call. And certainly the endpolio.org site is a good one too. And your district leaders, your regional leaders, we're all here to support you. That's what our jobs are. This is that time you should take the picture of that if you want those as well. But we're here to help. And so utilize this. You're not on an island. Your district is happy to help with anything that they can. And if they don't know the answer, they're going to pass it along to us. And we're happy to help from that standpoint too. So I know I threw a lot at you there, but public image isn't just your Facebook page. It's everything we do, and it's how to make that perception enhanced in the lives of our members and the public around the world. So and I know it seems like a lot, and I will stop sharing here for a second. And I want to stop with a story, and then hopefully we'll have time for a question or two. But in Rotary and in a lot of things, we just feel like we're one person. We have way too much uh, going on to make a big impact. And I'm sure you're feeling that way as president-elect. I know I did when I was president-elect in 2009. And all I can tell you is I'd like to share the story of the hummingbird. If you've heard it, okay, you're going to hear it again. If you haven't, I think it's a good one. But there was a forest fire, and all of the animals in the forest were panicked, just because they were watching their homes burn and everything, and they just all stood there going, "What can we do? We can't do anything. Our entire world of our forest is burning, and it's going to be gone. All of our homes, everything we have." And they all just sat there, just kind of in shock, except for this little hummingbird who said, "I'm going to do something about this," and went down to the river and got one single drop of water in her beak and took it up and dropped it on the fire, and just went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, dropping one drop at a time. And all the other animals who were much bigger, stronger, faster, more storage capacity, were just going, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this? You can't make any difference. You're too small. You're too weak. You're too frail. You can only drop one drop of water at a time. Why are you even bothering?" And the hummingbird, without even slowing down, just kept going. And without slowing down, she said, "I'm doing the best that I can." And to a certain degree, Rotarians are hummingbirds. We don't sit back and watch what's happening and just go, "Oh, we can't do anything." No, we're the ones that run towards that fire, ready to give our time, energy, talent, money to help make the world around us a better place, whether it's in our backyards or halfway across the world. That's what we do as Rotarians. We're hummingbirds because one of us doing something makes a little bit of difference. But when 1.4 million of us around the world are doing something, we're making a huge difference, like eradicating polio or any of the other great work we do. You have the ability in your club to make a change happen in your community and around the world. And by doing some of these things that you're learning about here during your pet session, you're going to be better off for it. Your club's going to be better off for it. Your community's going to be better off for it. And the world's going to be better off for it. So do what you can, do as much as you can. Don't get overwhelmed. And thank you.